Good afternoon, this is TerryTopCat for TerryTopCat Purrsents for ClusterView.com, and I'm with my friend and neighbour, the amazing Tim Dry. How are you, sir? Good afternoon.
I'm very hot and well, thank you.
Good to see you.
And you.
We did kind of see each other briefly in the street over lockdown, didn't we? Which was
Yeah, we did.
tough time for everybody.
Yeah. Well, so, hopefully we're over that.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to say briefly how I met you. So we're neighbours and we both lived here for quite a few years. One time there was like a power cut, and we were all gathering outside on the streets going, what's going on? And then I kind of recognised you and we had a little conversation, and that's kind of how we got to know each
I just
other.
thought, hang on, I've lived here for blah blah years, and I've suddenly met this guy who knew all about me, who's 2 doors away.
Yeah.
Well, why does it take a power cut?
Yeah, exactly.
I shouldn't have used a hairdryer, darling.
So you grew up in Surrey.
Yeah.
And when did you start getting into music? And which artists? We'll obviously come on to the amazing David Bowie.
Sure. Yeah, well, I grew up in a town called Red Hill in Surrey, which has a small number of very famous people, actually. You might be interested
Yes,
to know.
please.
One of them is Ronnie Biggs, the great train robber.
Oh, wow.
He lived about 200 yards up the road from me in my parents' home, and he was nicked, for the great train robbery. Another one is Roy Lyons, who was the original organist in Status Quo.
Oh, yes.
If you look at pictures of Matchstick Men on Top of the Pops, he's the guy going, mooning at the camera going, hey, I'm not going to be here very long, but hey. And I think Fatboy Slim, or what's his name, real name?
Norman Cook.
But his real name is something even more embarrassing.
Really?
Yeah,
I
anyway.
thought that was, okay.
But he's a sort of Red Hill Reigate boy. So, and also Rat Scabies, or Chris Miller, as I knew him.
The punk legend.
He was a wild boy even then. I mean, he was famous for working on a building site wearing a velvet suit.
I love that.
Being thrown out of pubs for pushing his head through pub glass windows, It was like, and this is a couple of years before punk,
Right. Okay.
And we all of us art students got a job at the local post office at Christmas sorting out mail, and there was me and Rat, or Chris as he was, and we went to the pub and we were talking about albums, and he was a big Humble Pie fan, and so was I. And he said, yeah, I've just put a band together, I thought, okay, what are you called? He goes, we're called Tor. What, as in Glastonbury? He goes, yeah, right. And they played at Croydon Greyhounds, and they were awful. They were like some sort of prog rock, kind of drum solos and stuff. And literally 3 months later, he's in the band, It's like, oh, okay. The only other Red Hill boy was Dave from the Vapors, turning Japanese.
Yes,
Japanese.
I got a recording of that with my brother.
What is that song all about? Well, he denies it, but I think it's true. Anyway, but that was it really. So I got out of Red Hill as soon as I could, really. Moved to Brighton, became a hippie for a bit, took a lot of drugs, listened to a lot of music. The guy I lived with introduced me to a lot of American music, which I hadn't really heard. I was totally into Bowie, Beatles, Roxy, all that stuff. And he was playing me Grateful Dead and, It's a Beautiful Day, which I did like. Jefferson Airplane, and I thought, what, this doesn't do it for me at all. Anyway, so after a couple of years of that in Brighton, it's very Withmill and I moved back to Red Hill, thought, oh God, I'm here again, it's like, hell will never let you escape. And then I saw Lindsay Kemp doing Flowers at the Roundhouse, and I thought, you know what, I saw Bowie 4 years ago, this is something I need to do. So I said, I'm going to study mime. And that's how it all started, Terry.
Ah, but you also said art school, so what's the work? Where were you in art school?
I was in a local art school in Reigate, and I did a foundation year, which everyone does. You do a bit of everything. You think, oh God. I just wanted to get out of school, to be honest. You know, I was 17, I was horny, I was angry, I wanted to move, you know, and I've got to get out of school. So they actually asked me to leave 2 weeks before because they were worried I was going to cause trouble, which I was going to do a little bit of naughty stuff. You know, I went to art school, did the foundation, and then I thought, they come round and say, what do you want to do for the next 3 years? And I thought, well, nothing really. Can you pay me? No. So I said, oh, I'll do graphics. Big mistake. I thought I wanted to illustrate children's books, you know. Anyway, so I did a year and a half of that, and I thought, you know what? Nah, I'm going.
So you mentioned Bowie briefly, but I interviewed the wonderful Mark White from ABC, and at that time, first of all, like you mentioned the dance, so I'm going to talk about another great artist, which I've got a picture to somewhere there. It's a wonderful Mark Bolan from T-Rex. So it was always the big three, wasn't it? It was Bowie, Bolan, and Roxy Music, right?
Yes.
So that's what his generation, your generation, and probably most people at that time were listening to, because it was something different to punk as well.
Oh, God, yeah.
And he was very supportive of punk because he had his own TV show at the time, and he had The Damned and Susie on there and stuff. So many artists that I look up to, and generation just before me. I'm not saying you're too much older, but you know, I'm just no. What I mean is all the people that I look up to, like yourself and Mark White and Boy George and Marilyn, they all mention about Bowie, what a big impact he had on them. Absolutely. So tell me, you know...
Do you mean musically?
Or everything.
Emotionally?
Well, musically, and then obviously that will lead to emotion.
Well, at the time when I first saw Bowie, I was still at art school, so I wasn't involved in music. And it was only later when I was in this group called Shock, and we had a recording contract with RCA, and I thought, fucking sorry.
No, it's fine.
Hell, I'm on the same label as Elvis and David Bowie. Wow. And Eurythmics, actually. So Shock did 2 singles, and first one produced by Richard Burgess from Landscape. Do you remember Landscape?
Yes, of course.
Go.
Great tune.
And good old Rusty Egan from Visage and the Rich Kids and the Skids and every other person on the planet.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I can't.
And big up to Robert Pereno as well.
Oh, absolutely big up to Robert.
He was in Shock as well.
Well, it was Robert that got me into the group Shock.
Okay.
Do you want to hear the story?
Yes, but let's talk about Bowie first. When you first, we were talking before camera about the first time you went and saw him.
You have good editing, I hope.
Yes, he does. So when you first saw Bowie in concert?
May the 27th, 1972.
Wow, ingrained in your memory forever.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I said earlier, you know, in this town hall in Surrey, with wooden chairs laid out in rows, expecting like a sort of, you know, a jamboree or a Women's Institute sort of knitting circle.
Yeah.
You know, hello. And, you know, all of a sudden, the lights go down, the March from a Clockwork Orange starts up, which Wendy Carlos, not the original. And you think, God, this is odd. And suddenly the lights come up and there he is. And he was like an angel, literally. I've never seen a man so beautiful and so in control of himself, you know, body-wise and vocally. And the band was so effing tight. It was just unbelievable. I've seen everyone. I saw the Beatles, I saw the Stones, I've seen the Who, the Yardbirds, Man for Man. I never saw the Doors, actually. That's a real pisser. But anyway, so this was something completely new. This was like a form of rock that I had never encountered before.
Also, in his stage shows, like stuff influenced by Lindsay Kemp as well.
Well, that was a little bit later.
Or was that later? Okay.
No, he had worked with Lindsay prior to that, so he had a great sense of how he moved and what looked good. And there's one story he said he used to love the old rocker Gene Vincent.
That's right. Yes.
And he had a bad road accident and buggered up one of his legs. So the only way he could comfortably perform in front of a mic was to have one leg in front and one leg back. And Bowie thought, that's really cool. I'm going to nick that. And he did. If you look at early footage of Bowie and the Spiders, he's doing that sort of leaning forward with one leg backwards thing, and it's pretty sexy, you know. Anyway, so I came away from that and thinking, well, that's probably the best thing I've ever seen. And then the Ziggy album came out on the 16th of June. Hey, yesterday.
Yes, yeah.
50 years ago, yesterday.
Wow.
And obviously I bought that. And then he played Croydon Greyhound on the, I don't know, maybe the 22nd of June. And Roxy Music with a support act.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, I'd read about Roxy Music. I used to buy a magazine called Beat Instrumental. You know, because I was a bit of a guitarist. It was always like, yeah, hey, Eric uses these strings. And suddenly there was this article about this band called Roxy Music. And the guitarist in Roxy Music originally was David O'List, who used to be in The Nice.
Okay.
You remember The Nice?
I don't. Okay, now I know.
Anyway, so I thought, oh, this is interesting, you know, because there was Brian Ferry looking all kind of cool and Brian Eno. I thought, wow, he's
Our neighbour, he lives around here.
yeah, I never met him.
You know what? Mark would say, my friend Mark White from ABC, he would always say, oh, I don't want to meet him, Terry, because he might not be nice. I'm like, Mark, he's the nicest guy. And but through me loving Grace Jones, I always bump into him and talk about him. And we became friends. And unfortunately, I haven't seen him since lockdown. Before lockdown, we went and had a coffee, and I was like, oh my God, I'm with Brian Eno. And he's introduced me as his friend. I'm like, what? But lovely the man. So I'm sure you'll bump into him one day.
Yeah, I hope so.
So coming back to you in Shock, and so you did a couple of singles on the same label as the Elvis and David Bowie and God, David Bowie. So how did that go from...
He'll laugh at that one. Yeah.
How did that go from Shock to meeting Sean and forming Tik and Tok?
Okay, well, Shock were already going, and we had a sort of... we used to still go to our mime tutor, Desmond, in World's End for top-up, you know, mime stuff. And one night, Barbie and I met this really pretty young boy called Sean, and we went to the pub afterwards. And he said, well, I've got this weird act. I call myself Plastic Joe, and I cover myself in sort of pancake and Vaseline. I thought, interesting. and I wear a black plastic jumpsuit, even more interesting. And I sort of stand motionless on the street until somebody moves past me, and I go into this thing. And I thought, fuck. I said, look, Barbie and I are in this group called Shock. You must join it. And we spoke to Robert, and Robert goes, yes, absolutely, fantastic. And he did. So suddenly there's 3 mime artists and 3 dancers, or, you know, movers in this group called Shock. And then we met Rusty, and we met Richard, and everyone else, you know. And suddenly we're at the Blitz. And it's like, whoa, this is weird. It was not weird, it was like being slightly too young to be part of the 60s. You know, because in 67 I was 15, so that's like, not really going to happen, is it? But in 1980, this was like the 60s again. It was young people dressing up, having fun, having sex, having exploration, fashion, music. And we saw the first gig by Spandau, and George was the cloakroom attendant. He was very spiky, but it's wonderful, you know. And suddenly you're part of this thing, and then we got a lot of press, and that all happened, you know. And
very different times, obviously, with the music and also how the industry is now. But so let's talk about Tik and Tok, because I've got a few things I want you to sign.
Please tell me if I'm talking too much.
No, I'm here to interview you, so please.
I'm talking to him.
No, go carry on, please.
And you.
Eddie's over there.
Mr. Leopard Skin over there in the corner, giving it large because brilliant. Okay, so what happened with Shock was that we did one single. Robert and LA, his blonde girlfriend, decided to leave when we were on stage at the Lyceum, our very first headlining gig. You know, it's Shock, Biddy and Eve, you know, Eve.
Eve Ferret.
An all-black dance group called Torso. They were fucking cool. And Robert, halfway through this set, he says, "Oh, me and LA are leaving." And the rest of us go, "Uh-huh, what? Oh, carry on with the song, backstage." It's like, what? WTF?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're going now. We're leaving. So that left the four of us to think, oh, hell, what are we going to do next? So we thought we'd carry on a shop for a bit. So it's Barbie, of course. She found a male bodybuilder who only wore a loincloth. It's like, okay. And I think Sean and I found a girl called Leslie whose act was to be covered completely in gold paint, just wearing a little G-string with a 7-foot python.
Oh, wow.
And we thought, yeah, having that. But there was one moment, we did a gig at Heaven as the new shock, and there's Leslie in front with a python who's called John. Really? Not a good name for a python, is it?
Really.
John, Could have been Stig or something.
Yeah.
Slither.
Slither, that was
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Slither. Slith. You're going to be in Guns N' Roses. Oh no,
Yeah,
that's Slash, sorry.
yeah, Slash.
Anyway, we do this sort of act where she's in the front, Sean and I behind her, and we're doing this sort of Carly-esque movement thing. And I'm thinking, oh, that's great, because Leslie's in front with the python, and suddenly I see this sort of snaky head coming towards me, and I have a big problem with snakes, really. They're not my favourites,
Gosh.
And it's like, okay, it's a python, they don't bite, that's going to be cool, keep on doing the whatever. And it goes around my neck, and it's like a car tyre, it's really heavy shit. And it goes round that way, then it's going off back that way, and I think I'm still carrying on doing this stuff. And that was it for, Shock Mark II. But Sean and I thought, let's go busking one night. And I said, what do you mean busking? We don't sing or play. We're not in the streets of London. He said, let's do the robot.
Right.
Okay. Well, because of our mime training, we knew we could do it. This is a very long version, by the way. Cut right now. And we both had sort of dress suits, sort of tux and bow ties and white shirts and white face makeup. And we went outside San Lorenzo restaurant in Knightsbridge, and we just stood there with the top hat down. And if anybody walked in or out, we just started to move, and they went nuts. They go, whoa, hey, here's some money. And we thought, this is good. So we walked back to Sean's place, and he said, we should call ourselves Tik and Tok. I thought, that's brilliant, because it rhymes with shock, and it suggests a kind of mechanical movement thing. I said, can we spell it with a K, not a CK? He goes, yeah, cool. And that was it, we're off,
You should get some royalties, because now it's called TikTok.
No,
with a...
To be totally honest, L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz, wrote a sequel called TikTok of Oz.
Did he?
Yeah.
I never knew that. Oh.
Most people don't. But it was spelt the same as us.
Oh.
So
did it ever get made into a film, or it's just a screenplay?
No, it's just a novel.
Oh, was it good?
Never read it.
Oh, you never...
Anyway.
So then you formed TikTok. Tik and Tok, sorry. Yeah, I'm getting that in my... royalties show your way. Yeah, Tik and Tok. And you went to... You recorded music, and also you supported him, wonderful, and still going strong, very inspirational, Gary Numan. Because he's influenced such a new generation of artists. And
I know, it's quite incredible.
Yeah, I met his wife Gemma once, she's lovely.
Yes.
Never met him, unfortunately, but...
Yeah, no, he Shock supported him at Wembley on his farewell gigs in 1981.
How did I
and he was very, very generous. He gave us a 40-minute support slot. He said, you don't have to pay me. If the three girls can do one number in my act, and you and Sean can do a Tik and Tok thing in another number, we're video for nothing,
Wow.
So we got the video, and then Shock split up, blah, 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 blah. 2 years later, we're still seeing Gary, and he said, oh, I've got this big, I've come back. Oh, it's a miracle. And I'm doing this big UK tour. And I go, wow, can we support you, Tik and Tok? He goes, yeah. Well, that was it.
Awesome.
That was 1983.
And tell me about one. We've done an interview before, but this is for the one for ClusterView.com. TerryTopCat Purrsents Tim Dry.
Hey.
So you were in New York and you were do some gigs there.
Back there.
Yeah,
Okay.
1982.
No, okay. Oh, Shock got invited to
Was
do
it Shot? Okay.
10 days at the Ritz in New York,
Wow.
which was the hippest club.
Absolutely.
You know, and we had a ghastly manager, whose name I probably won't mention, Ian Burton. But anyway, but somehow him and RCA and lovely Simon Buckland, actually, who is still a good friend of mine, got us. Have you met Simon?
No.
Oh, you'd love him. Anyway,
Okay, great.
another story. But we got 10 days at the Ritz in New York, so we thought, bloody hell, this is brilliant. You know, we're flying out, we're doing our this is before we did the Numan shows at Wembley,
Right.
so we were hot, you know. And we did 10 days, and it was brilliant. We supported Kid Creole and...
Big up, and big love to Eva Tudor-Jones, his wonderful wife, and Kid Creole, August Darnell. Love them both, they're amazing.
Okie dokie.
I wanted to see.
Do just bust in there like that. Anyway, so we did 10 days and we went down a storm. And some nights we didn't go on stage until 3 a.m, you know, which is like, whoa. Well, we had a bit of help with that.
Yes, I'm sure.
You know. Anyway, but the night before we left, our manager said, oh, you're leaving tomorrow because you're doing a wet t-shirt contest in Blackpool. And we thought, really? We're in New York and you're asking... Anyway, the owner of the Ritz comes up to us just before this and said, look, we've got this new guy performing tomorrow night. His name is Prince. Would you like to support him?
Oh.
And we'd heard Dirty Mind. And
Wow.
we thought, wow, absolutely, yes. And then evil manager steps in and says, oh no, sorry, you're going back to do a wet t-shirt contest in Blackpool. So that was what Shock was like. It was one brilliant moment and one ghastly moment.
Yeah.
All at the time, you know. No wonder Robert Pereno left, really. But that was our New York experience. But, you know, I'm told that I actually went to a nightclub and met Bianca Jagger, but I don't have any memory of that. But I do remember walking down the street, Sean and I, we meet the singer of Teardrop Explodes.
Julian Cope.
Julian Cope. And he goes, oh, hey, you guys are English, yeah? We go, yeah, so are you, mate. Liverpool. And Sean and I went to a club about the size of this room, and we saw Bauhaus. Because we love them.
Oh, gosh.
And there's Peter Murphy giving it, you know, full-on kind of mimey Bowie stuff. And he had this brilliant thing that we nicked later. He had a box on the side of the stage, and he'd open it really mysteriously. And there'd be a spotlight inside it, which just shone up into his face, and he Bela Lugosi's dead. And it was just, oh, this is brilliant. And they're in a room this size with 20 people in it. You think, oh, okay. So much for the English invasion. Anyway, that was then.
So how did that...
Cutting a very long story, probably
no.
shorter.
So how did Tik and Tok lead? Were you always into acting, or did that just being in Tik and Tok lead you to other opportunities?
I was never interacting. I never thought that that's a possibility, you know. That only came later as being a mime artist and doing a lot of TV commercials.
So I remember, as a kid, sorry.
Oh, hell, you
Cut that out. I remember when I was watching
I was only 5.
No, I wasn't 35.
Sorry.
I remember in the 90s, I was watching all these adverts, and you'd be on them. And my neighbour and lovely
Can't
my
wait to
wife
see
on
the
ABC.
outtakes of this. Check this on YouTube. Boy! These guys
Rewind. So you got into acting, but you said you did about 90 commercials. I remember watching it, and I'd always see that guy, and then when I got to finally meet you, I'd be like, oh, that's the guy who did all those adverts, and lovely Mark White, or maybe people would say, yeah, that guy, he's the one who did all the adverts. So I presume they paid well, and you got, and did that lead to acting roles?
Okay, well, to sort of go back but forward at the same time, when Sean and I got the roles in Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Episode 6, folks, we had enough money to buy some kit, so we bought 3 synthesizers, a Fostex Porter Studio, a Fostex Digital Delay, and a Casio keyboard. It was so cool. But, Sean's parents had a house in Knightsbridge, but they were living out of town, so Sean had the house to himself. So we used the living room as our little recording studio. And Tik and Tok had gone into the studio with Peter Godwin, bless him, and Russell Bell from Gary's band to record Somewhere in the City. And we needed a B-side for that, and I created this track called Crisis at home, in Sean's living room, using this primitive equipment. But actually, hearing it yesterday, it sounds really pretty damn good. It's very analog, all that stuff, But so we got this record deal with Survival Records as Tik and Tok, and we took Summer in the City to everyone, and they all said, "Oh no, it's July. We can't do Summer in the City now. You should have done it." Okay. Survival Records said, "Oh, yeah, we can pop it out in 2 weeks," and they did. Bless them. That's the only good thing they ever did.
You have a definitive coming out?
Well, it's out.
It's out?
Well, it's on its way out. It's a double CD of my own music that I've recorded and written and played by myself over the last 40 years. No, 85, 95, whatever. That's coming out in 2 or 3 weeks. It's 33 tracks, and it ranges from guitar-based rock to very ambient, very trippy, very dancey, William Orbity kind of, lots of samples, which I'll probably get done for, but hey.
You also, we'll come back to the acting in a minute, I was going to mention Xtro, but you're also a photographer as well.
Yeah.
So...
Don't mention Xtro. Anyway.
You don't want to talk about Xtro?
No,
okay.
It's so bad, it's good. It's like killer tomatoes.
Well, Chris, we'll come on to that.
Okay.
So would you do like video shoots or still work or location work for the photography? What photography?
We've suddenly jumped about.
Okay, no, let's
20 years.
No, okay, all right. So as well as being in Return of the Jedi, you're also in this classic cult film called Xtro.
Oh,
and the only reason why I heard of Xtro, because I'm more about music than being in the film buff.
Yeah.
I was sitting one day talking to and I'm not bragging, I'm just through the wonderful Grace shows, I met this guy called Chris Cunningham. I wasn't aware of his work.
Chris.
And then I saw all the amazing body of work with Bjork and everybody. And then I told him that you were my neighbour. He just went crazy. He was like, "Oh my God, Xtro is one of my favourite films ever." And I'm like, "Really?" So I got you to do a little video message for him, which I don't think he actually ever saw.
Little bastard.
But hopefully when I go to LA, I'm going to try and track him down.
What's the Aphex Twin video that really...
Come to Daddy. Wasn't Come to Daddy. Oh my God, what a video.
That still gets me.
It's such a great video. It's incredible.
Window Licker as well.
Yes, he did both of them.
Anyway, yeah, Xtro. Well, that came about because Sean and I were doing two nights a week cabaret, being robots at Coconut Grove, this sort of Ponzi cocktail bar just off Oxford Street. And we used to do it, sometimes angry husbands would throw potatoes at us because we scared their wives, Because, they'd be sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, darling, love it. And we come up and go, and they go, "Whoa!" No. And the wife would go, "Oh my God, they're horrible." And they run to the toilet, so we follow them into the toilet. "You will be ours." And that's when the husband goes, "Right, that's it, Chuck." Yeah. Anyway, but one night, these two guys were there going, "Hey, we're doing this movie, yeah?" And we thought, "Oh God, here we go." We've already done Return of the Jedi, so we're used to sort of proper people, But these two guys, they were kind of very upper class, you know, a bit public school, a bit sort of, we do a bit of blow and stuff. But we're doing a movie, horror movie, and we'd like you guys to be in it. And we thought, okay, well, as what? I go, well, hey, got this great idea, like one of you like being like an alien thing, yeah, and the other one being like, whoa, a commander who comes to life and does bad things. And we got, fuck it, yeah. Do it. So we did, and it was the worst experience of my life, actually.
What's it?
Well, originally they said, okay, we want Sean to be the alien. I thought, that's cool, you know, because he's smaller than me, so he could probably, you know, more. And I said, hey, wouldn't it be great if he, instead of being a man in a rubber suit going, ooh, what about if he was on his back, you know, doing a and that's great. And then a couple of days later they said, actually Tim, we've changed our mind, we want you to be the alien and Sean to be the action man. Oh, bollocks. So I had to have my whole body cast in plaster, and that, seriously, that is not a pleasant experience, because it's like a Brazilian when they pull it off, it's like, oh, okay, I'm with that. But they made this whole rubber suit that was actually absolutely skin tight, that would only fit if I was in this ghastly, crabby position thing. And they said, great idea, Tim, we're going to put the head on backwards, right? So you can't see where you're going, yeah? And this is all sort of, really cool. It's like, you couldn't see where he's going, yeah? So he's crawling along in this sort of woodland path, and he doesn't know where he's going. Yeah? Brilliant, I'm the mug who's in it. Yeah. And it was filmed in March in the middle of the woods in Buckinghamshire, and once you're in a skin-tight rubber suit, I mean, seriously, you know, I don't mean a latex, you know, torture garden thing. This is heavy-duty shit, you cannot move. And so if you're cold, you get really, really cold. And there I am, sort of crawling along backwards with my head going that way, thinking, this is the fucking worst job I've ever had. So we do a couple of days of that, and then on another day, the director, even now, he apologises for it, actually, Harry Bromley Davenport.
I love the name.
Yeah. He said, okay, Tim, we've got this idea, we want you to emerge from a pool of bracken water, all right, in slow motion. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I don't have an agent, I don't have insurance or anything like that. You don't have safety people. And they dug a hole in the middle of this wood in Buckinghamshire in March, filled it with horrible bracken, mucky water. And they just said, okay, Tim, you don't have to put the whole costume on. I think, wow, thanks. You just put the head on and then go under the water. And we're going to do a shot where you sort of slowly rise up. Yeah, that's really cool. And anyway, so I think, hell, I go under the water, and all the water in the hole pours in through the eye hole and the nose holes and the mouth holes, and I'm thinking, I could die like this. And eventually I hear this sort of, what? Oh, fuck it, I'm going anyway. So I sort of rise up really slowly, and it does look brilliant, but all this water's are pouring out of everywhere. And I emerge, and all the crew are wearing sort of puffer jackets, and go, "Ooh, get porky, innit, eh?" I mean, hey, I'm in a fucking pool of water with a rubber head on, you know. You're having a bad time. Anyway, I said, look, this is it, I'm not doing another one.
So before we wrap up, I want to talk. We talked very briefly.
Good time to wrap now.
With Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about that, because that was a big production, and you still do the autograph, go in these conventions and stuff. So tell me more about the experience of the Return of the Jedi, and how you got that job. You and Sean, and big hi to Sean Crawford as well.
Yeah, bigging it up, Mr. C. Well, Desmond Jones was our mime teacher, so he phoned us up one day in January '82 and said, look, I've been contacted by the casting director and production manager of the new Star Wars movie. They're looking for aliens to play creatures in the new movie. We go, shit, right. And he said, no, look, I'm putting together 25 people, come to my school on Saturday, and we'll audition in front of whoever. So Sean and I turn up, we pack our tights and stuff, Oh, pack the tights. And there's about 25 of us, I think, and Desmond says, okay, do some alien acting. Right. So we do a lot of stuff. There's Robert Watts, the producer there. I think there may have been a female casting director, and Desmond. So we do about 20 minutes of this, and Des goes, okay, that's it, great, thank you. So Sean and I get the tube home, and we think, well, that would have been great, wouldn't it? But hey, what are we doing now? A week later, we get a call saying you're in the movie.
And where was the location?
It was filmed at Elstree Studios outside of London. So another friend of ours, another mime, was in it as well. So he would drive us there and back. And we had to go there on one day to get costumes fitted because they didn't know who we were going to play. It wasn't like, oh, Tim's going to be blah blah and Sean's going to be, no. It was like, oh, if that fits, that's what you're playing, So I became Toothface, Sean became Yakface, and other people became Squidhead, It's like, wow. And it was 3 weeks of the most extraordinary experience because walking onto the film set for the first time in full costume, you're 6 foot above the ground because there's puppeteers underneath doing stuff, And it's real, there's a ceiling, there's 4 walls, there's a floor, and you're there in this costume and you can't really move properly. And you think, my God, this is actually real. It's not just cardboard Doctor Who kind of wobble if you touch it, So it was very uncomfortable because you've got a whole load of crew, you've got extras, you've got people like us, you've got the cameras, these big, massive cameras, director, the big people. Oh, the most exciting moment was Carrie Fisher sort of chained to Jabba the Hutt. Come on.
Was she lovely?
Oh, she was a sweetheart, yeah. I had a funny moment with Harrison Ford. My girlfriend at the time said, hey Tim, look, can you possibly get Harrison Ford's autograph? I said, hey, sure. I'm going to get it late tonight, if nothing else. Anyway, so in a break, I'm half in my furry costume, so I've got a t-shirt on, I've got dyed black hair and big furry massive trousers on, and I see Harrison Ford sitting in a kind of canvas chair reading the script, being very kind of, hey, I'm a serious actor here. So I approach him and I sort of think, oh God, and I go up and say, excuse me, Mr. Ford, and he looks up and goes, whoa, yeah, hey kid. I said, could I have your autograph, please? He goes, hey, sure. Somehow he or I produced a piece of paper and he wrote, Bess Harrison. And I think, oh, thank you so much. And I sort of stumble my way back in these ridiculous furry trousers and just a white t-shirt, with all this ghastly hair and stuff. And I go back to the dressing room and I think, oh, I've fucking lost the autograph. What do I do? I can't go back and ask him again because he's going to think I'm a serial idiot. I cannot go home and tell my girlfriend, hey, I got Harrison's autograph. Brilliant, where is it?
You didn't forge it, did you?
No, I didn't. I did a porky and said, oh, I really wanted it, but he was so busy. But where did it go? Somewhere on the studio floor. It's like, hey,
So before we wrap up, you do all these autograph conventions. That must be fun. So you go all over the world doing that, meeting fans of Star Wars and other films that you've been in.
Well, other films. I mean, it's really Star Wars.
It's really Star Wars, okay? Because big up, I want to say shout out to Steve Pitron because he's another big Star Wars fan as well. So you got your coming out, your 33 track double CD.
Yes.
And what else are you up to? I know you're a very busy man.
Well, we haven't really mentioned the CD.
Right. So
it's by this guy called Dave Turner, and 2 years ago he produced this double CD of every Tik and Tok track called Definitive. He doesn't actually have his own record label. He just distributes it through Discogs, Amazon, and eBay.
Oh,
And he
good idea.
sells them for 15 quid a pop, you know. And so he came to me last year and said, look, you know, Tik and Tok one did really well. What about all your own stuff, you know? I said, well, I've got quite a lot of stuff. And he goes, let's go for it. So it took a lot of time. I had to go through every track that I got that I wanted to put out and then put it through Logic and see how it sounded.
Sure.
You know, because a lot of this, well, the early stuff was done on 4-track Porter Studio. And it's like, whoa, okay. But, you know, these days you can jiggle and stuff. And then there's a lot of stuff from the early 90s where I had got, I haven't got digital stuff, but I did have sequencers and samplers. And so it's quite interesting putting all that stuff together. And then in the 2000s when I had got the Mac and I had got Logic, it's like, whoa, suddenly things, you know, really. But the way he's remastered the stuff is it all sounds equally as good.
Fantastic.
It's quite brilliant
Can't
because,
wait for it.
you know, if you've got an 85 track which is just guitars and a drum machine compared to a 2020 track, it somehow he's managed to make it all. So I'm very excited about that. That should be out at the end of this month, I think, anyway.
Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. This is TerryTopCat from TerryTopCat Purrsents with the wonderful Tim Dry. Thank you for your time. We're going to have a little drink now off camera. ClusterView.com.